guys, it's me, Drea, here with Fancy's Regenerative Farm. I thought, anyways, I'm holding it by hand because my tripod is broken and I've been using a sock to tie my phone on to do the video, and it's a real pain in the butt, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it like this today. So, I thought I would show you, I have leftovers from the other day. We had, couple of chickens, there was carrots, green beans, mashed potatoes, gravy, I'm just going to show you what I do, a really easy quick meal to do with the leftover dinner like that. If you use my little buddy back there, he's getting tired of this, he wants me moving around. If you cook with whole chickens, I tend to do a meal like this a lot, and it's just really easy. It's just easy to throw a whole cooked chicken with some carrots and do up some gravy, and then we do up mashed potatoes and green beans and stuff like that to go with it. And it's a really easy meal, but there's always leftovers. So I pretty much always turn it into a soup the next day or a few days following, whatever. And then in the wintertime, I would totally be doing bone broth with the bones, but summertime I'm not doing too much for bone broth right now. So anyway, so I'm going to turn this into a soup. I'm going to do chicken and dumplings because I love dumpling soup. My kids don't, but I love it, so that's what I'm making. Anyways, so I'm just going to show you real quick. Not a pretty sight, but it's going to turn into something very yummy. So as you can see, we were actually snacking on it a minute ago. Anyways, does not look pretty. With leftovers, I just piled it all into this pan, and then now I am going to debone all the chicken bits, and then basically I might break up those carrot bits, and then basically I'm going to just pop this all into this pot. This pot's way too big, but it works. Pop it all into that pot, add some broth, seasonings, and then cook it for a while, and then drop in some dumplings. So it's super duper easy. I just wanted to show you kind of like, you know, if you want something really easy, turn that stuff into this chicken and dumplings, and it's a delicious meal. So while I'm working on that, I am going to be putting my dishes away. I've got quite a pile there, and making some cookies as well because we have some company coming this evening, and so I need to have some cookies on the side. But yeah, so I am going to, unfortunately I can't really show you as I'm going, but I'm going to debone this, drop that whole pan in there, basically get all the bones out, and then I'll show you as I'm adding in the seasonings and the broth, kind of the look that I'm looking for, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so I've pretty much gotten all the big chunks out. Now at this point, it's just pretty much all mush. So I'm just going around feeling for any like toughness or any bones. So I am not, it's not a pretty sight. I'm not feeling anything. And so I'm just going to take the whole thing and dump it in my pot. Okay, so I got that part all done. I've got a pot of a bunch of bones and goodies for the dogs. So now I am just going to add my broth and then my seasonings. Just forgot we're out of water. We got to run the generator. So I'm just going to use my filtered water right now. like it watery enough for dumplings to cook in. Okay, so that's probably got enough broth in there to be able to cook dumplings in, pretty close to it. If I had whey on hand, which I do, it's all in the freezer. I need to get on it and like keep a thing thawed every week. But I always end up forgetting about it. It's in the freezer. So if I was wise, I would be pouring my whey in here. But it's just plain old water today. So I'm going to add in a little bit of oil. Butter's the best, but today I have olive oil. And then plenty of salt, because I just added a lot of water. So I'm going to add a good helping of salt. We like salty things. And this is Redmond's real salt, so it's got a lot of good minerals in it for you. So, and then pepper. We like quite a bit of pepper as well. And then I do chicken bouillon. So this is a homemade bouillon. One of these days I will do a recipe for this because I love it. I put it on everything. And I feel good about it. I know every ingredient in it. And other people seem to like it too. I've had a lot of people ask for this recipe. So I put a good helping because it's not like the typical bouillon that you're going to get from a store. That's very concentrated. This is not the same. So you need a lot more of this. I'm probably honestly going to do a little bit more. I eyeball everything. So go by taste. Unfortunately, I can't tell you measurements, but super duper simple soup. Just go by taste. With the amount of water I just put in, I would probably, oh boy, I haven't used bouillons and like chicken bouillon in forever. Probably, I don't know, 3-ish cubes. I don't know. It's been so long since I've used chicken bouillon. 4 cubes. I don't know. So you just go by taste, whatever you kind of like. We like stronger flavors. We like a lot of flavor in our family. And actually, my friend gave me a great idea is putting a little cayenne pepper in this just to give it a little spice. It's really yummy, which I think I'm going to do that. I guess I used up my cayenne pepper, so we're going to use pepper flakes. That might have been a little bit too much, but I don't know, half a teaspoon or so. That was probably about a teaspoon. Okay, so I've got this. I like to get it done quicker, so I've got it on high. Lost my spoon. Here it is. I'll do a close-up for you. I also like to add in a little bit of milk because I kind of like a creamier broth. Bit of milk. And I'm going to taste test it. Still cold, so it doesn't taste that good to me right now. But it's got lots of flavor. It just, I want it warm. So I'm going to get this nice and hot. And then I'm going to make, while I'm waiting for this to heat up, I'm going to make a batch of biscuits and pop them in. I just do, that's another thing. I used to do a dumpling recipe, and maybe I should. I don't know. But I've gotten to where it's just easier just to do a biscuit recipe for me. you can do a dumpling recipe. They're much easier. There's like, I don't know, lots of times it's like 3 ingredients or something like that, like hardly anything. Water, flour, and baking powder, something like that. Pretty simple. But I've gotten to where I don't have a dumpling recipe written out, so it's just easier to actually just grab my biscuit recipe, a drop biscuit recipe, mix that up, and then drop it in here. And I'm actually probably going to do it pretty shy on the baking powder and baking soda it calls for, because we don't like our dumplings really fluffy. We actually like them like, it's not doughy, but it's like that heavy consistency. So I will probably go very, very shy on the baking powder and soda. So I'm going to make up a biscuit recipe, batch of biscuits. If I didn't feel like doing dumplings, I would just cook the biscuits, and then we'd have biscuits with our soup. So you can do either way. But I'm going to go ahead and get going on that. Okay, so I will follow a recipe for my biscuits. I have it written out here. It's my old faithful. I always use it, and they turn out great every time. So, but this is for dumplings. So, 2.5 cups of flour. It calls for a tablespoon of baking powder. I'm actually not going to put that in at all. This is an experiment today, actually. Thinking back, we always get fluffy dumplings, and my husband and I actually don't like the fluffy ones. So, and I always end up putting the baking powder. So I'm actually going to skip it completely, because I have buttermilk that is from some butter I made recently. And there's something about this buttermilk that actually helps things rise really well. Compared to store-bought buttermilk. So yeah, I'm going to skip baking powder completely. So it would typically call for a tablespoon of baking powder, but we're skipping that. A tablespoon of sugar. 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/2 cup of butter, I'm not using butter today because butter is precious, so I am using coconut oil, which works just fine. I've done it tons of times. Okay, 1/2 cup of coconut oil. I'm going to cut this in, the coconut oil with the flour. Okay, and 1 cup of milk, but I'm using buttermilk today. So, I need to get there. I'm gonna make them a little bit runnier, actually, just to help more like be more of like a dumpling consistency. Drop in easier. Mix it up. Okay, this is mixed up good. I'm going to go ahead and, this is nice and hot. Taste test. I'd say that tastes pretty good. Nice and yummy. Okay. Gonna drop these in. I've got my water really hot in here, or my broth really hot in here. It was just boiling, so. You can't really go wrong with dumplings. And our kids love the broth. I have one child that loves dumplings, and she asked for the dumplings and not very much broth because she's like, she just wants to load up on the dumplings. And then I have two other kids that want the broth. They don't want the dumplings, so they only want broth. So the soup is very delicious in itself, but I am a dumpling lover, so that I much rather take the time to do dumplings. Not that it takes any time. Okay. I'm going to take you over to my soup. And you can see there's the soup, and the dumplings are all actually covered. It's not quite to a boil right now, but it is very hot. So I totally wing this all the time. You can get a dumpling recipe and go to the exact instructions, but I just wing it, and it tastes amazing every time. We love dumplings. So I'm just gonna let this cook for a while. You know, way back when I followed instructions, I think it was like 10 minutes with the lid off, and then like 10 minutes with the lid on, or 20 minutes with the lid on. I can't really remember. It's been so long since I followed a recipe. But basically I just let it come to a nice rolling boil, and then I'm just gonna let it simmer with the lid on for, I don't know, probably 20 minutes, something like that, 20 minutes or so. Anyways, and then that's it. Dinner's done. We're gonna have when Joel gets home from work, and I'm going to put away this whole mess here, all these dishes, tidy up the house, and we'll be ready. So anyways, I just wanted to show you how you can just make a super fast, easy leftover soup that's delicious, and the dumplings are good filler. Or you could just turn it into biscuits with soup instead too. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed what you saw. Also, I was just going to tell you, I usually only do, unless we had company, but just for a family, I only do one batch of dumplings or biscuits. I used to do 2, which is totally fine. But I found that lots of times, if I will always have leftover soup. I usually make too much. So usually we have it the next day for lunch, but there's been a couple times that I felt like freezing it, and I didn't want to freeze it with a couple old, I don't know. Honestly, I guess you could just pop out the leftover dumplings and eat them up. But I just found one batch is better because we get them all eaten up, and then if I want to freeze it, I don't have to like scoop out any dumplings or anything. I just pop it in a freezer bag and throw it in the freezer. Or if I do want leftovers the next day, we have the option to do biscuits on the side, or a fresh loaf of bread on the side, or I could make just a new batch of dumplings too. But I usually change it up a little bit, so we're not having the exact same thing over. I'll usually pair it with bread on the side, or I will toss it in the freezer for another time. But anyways, I just thought I'd let you know, it's sometimes easier if you do that, just one batch of biscuits. Unless you have a huge family, then you'll want to do 2 batches. All right, well, you guys take care. We'll catch you next time.